please give a very warm welcome to Christophe Jauquet.
Thank you very much. No, I have one. Thank you very much for all the 5-6 people. The other ones on the outside, please come in, have a seat. We're going to have some fun here. I'll be talking about, because there was something missing here, how AI flips healthcare. It's really about how AI will flip healthcare upside down. I will present you a scenario that you probably even didn't even think about. But before that, just to briefly introduce myself, I call myself a health innovation expert. I work with companies all over the globe, corporates as well as very small ones, primarily to change the way that they look at healthcare. I believe that there is healthcare, wellness, and consumerism, and that they all are coming closer together. I believe in this one very important thing, and that is that health and happiness are the single most important thing of all of you. Even if you're only 9, I'm pretty sure if I ask you to raise your hands who does not want to be healthy, nobody does not want to be healthy. This is the most important thing. So what I do is I look at all the trends in society, in business and technology, and I look at how that impacts our health and happiness. But I also do the opposite. I look at how we manage our health and how that influences business, technology, and even healthcare. I think about it, I write in newsletters, and then they eventually end up in books like these. My first book was called HEALTHusiasm. It explains why is it that people are more than ever occupied with their health? What does this mean for companies, for the healthcare industry, and how can they actually play into that to have more engagement, more motivation? The second book looks at it even from a bigger perspective. It looks at the health economy, saying that every business will eventually become a health business. That is my view on things. And I help companies with bringing that innovation to their business by doing inspiration sessions, bringing strategy, or even building ecosystems for them. This is basically what I try to do. But now the big question: how will AI flip upside down healthcare? And why is this happening? Now, first of all, a quick disclaimer. I'm a business strategist. I'm an innovation specialist. I am not a medical professional. I'm also not an AI expert, let's say. However, there is a couple of things that I see happening that are very important that we haven't thought about previously. And that is that the two major forces that are driving healthcare are being flipped upside down. They are being changed. And for that, to explain you that, I will have to go to the age before the 80s, when actually cigarettes were still sold like this, where you could still buy cigarettes, next to your bed in a hospital, or when patients only needed to do was think about not to forget their medication. That was that time. There is nothing else happening before the 80s. But we see this shift happening in the 80s, and does not have to do with the popularity of these kind of soaps on television. It's not because of that healthcare became more important, or that people were more conscious about it. It's because of the HEALTHusiasm trend. The fact that people had more tools available at their hand to have an impact on their health. That was the acceleration point. And we saw this happening if we look at the Hippocratic Oath. The Hippocratic Oath previously had no mentioning of patient autonomy, had no mentioning of informed consent. You only informed the patient when it was necessary. And you could take decisions without approval, as long as it was in the best interest of the patient. After the 80s, that changed basically. They helped patients. Patients had the right to make some choices. There should be open communication and so forth. This is how we saw things happening since the 80s. But a lot of things have happened ever since. And the two forces that are changing right now are forces that have been around for millennia. Healthcare, the way that we treat our patients, the way that we treat people, was always driven by two forces. And the first one was the fact that information was not equally distributed. It was not equally distributed. And even still today, if you ask patients, half of the time they don't even know what is happening, right? They're really wondering what is happening. And 83% of people really ask, how can I have more control over my health decisions, or decisions that are related to my health? And things changed from the 80s, but it accelerated again in the 2000s when we saw Dr. Boo Boo popping up. 52% of people, you know this, 52% of people go online every year to look for information. 78% throughout their lifetime. You know this one. It made such a fuss that physicians start walking around with these kind of mugs saying, don't misinterpret, my medical degree with your Google search. Nevertheless, over 1 billion searches are done online on Google related to health. That's 7% almost of the entire Google search that were happening. This is how important it is. People became informed and even empowered when they get out of the doctor's office. It really changed a lot. So you have Dr. Google, the information that was more equally distributed, and then came social media. If you look at social media, 93% of people, they actually are in contact or even communicating with accounts that provide health-related information. 40% say that even if they have a chronic disease, they would change their habits based on what they see on social media. It even accelerated with COVID, as we know that there's a lot of people that went online, tried to understand what's happening and what they needed to do, which is very unsurprising. Healthfluencers and medfluencers, ever since COVID, has become the most trusted source of information on social media. More than any other influencer, social media influencer out there. People listen to those people. And unfortunately, if you compare what social media healthfluencers or medfluencers are saying compared to the official guidelines, only 2%, for example, related to foods, are in line. So we have this disbalance between the authority, the scientific authority, and the social proof that people are looking for. We have this very strong tension there, if you will. But nevertheless, people go online to find information. We had the information, social media, and now we're entering in the age of AI, of course. Almost 40% today use LLMs to understand better how their health should be managed. No surprises there. And if you look at all the things online where they say it's beaten the test of medicine and so forth, even ChatGPT 4.0 already, this was all very impressive. Many say, this is multiple choice answers, it doesn't really fit the reality. Well, HealthBench just got launched a couple of months ago by OpenAI to really counter that. It is based on the messiness of patient-doctor conversations, making sure that we evaluate the answers of a LLM against the messiness and the rightness of the answer, which is a big, important study, and which showed that even still today, if you had some remarks on the previous way of measuring how good LLMs were for patients, well, even today you can see that most LLMs perform at least as good as physicians. So social media is really, artificial intelligence is really becoming almost the Dr. Google on steroids. If physicians were afraid of the impact of Google, well, this will gonna be Dr. Google on steroids. And so it's no surprising that all of these companies, of which probably you know quite a lot, they are working right now on virtual doctors. You can go to my website where I describe all of them, but all of these companies are on it. One of the most impressive ones is the one in China from Ping and Good Doctor. It is mimicking, it's actually based on real doctors, and what it does is personalized medication reminders, no biggie. It provides medical report interpretation, more interesting, but it also provides AI-assisted consultants. So you can actually talk to a physician that looks like the famous physician that maybe you want to visit but is impossible to visit these days, and have a chat with his or her AI digital twin. This is what we're seeing today, and you can expect it really soon here as well. The WHO has already, digital assistants, digital humans. The NHS have some, the pharmacists in the Netherlands have some. These are digital humans that can answer basic questions on rheumatology or smoking cessation, even COVID vaccinations back in the day. But imagine if we add an LLM on top of that. We are getting close to a virtual human being. This is Samsung, who created this virtual human being that can actually answer your questions. It's live in California right now, where you can test things out. But this is the type of virtual doctors that we will start seeing. So that patient that said, I do not know what's happening, but right now, because of Google the information, social media, and AI, they know exactly what is happening now. And that is a big, big difference compared to what we used to see in the past. And it worries doctors. 90% say that they are concerned that physicians will have a bigger impact, or that AI will have a bigger impact on patients than physicians, which is remarkable. And to me, this is one of the most important things that healthcare and the industry needs to realize, that is, if the uptake of AI is not faster or at least as fast as outside of the industry, we will go straight for an infarctus. We need to uptake AI as fast as the patients will, otherwise we'll have a problem. But the good thing is, there's a similar evolution happening, or happened even, in healthcare as well. And we saw indeed, we talked about Google for Patients. Well, physicians already in 2003, 88% of the physicians went online, utilized the information that was available. So that is good. I mean, if you look at the first year, 1995, of Medscape, there was 40,000 members already in their first year. Amazing. Today, there's over 13 million healthcare professionals going online to find information. The same goes for PubliMed, 5.5 million searches online every day. And so what we've seen is that these periodic places, like events where we can learn about the new developments in science, we have them now at our fingers on demand. First evolution. Just like with the patients, Dr. Google, physicians also have an online repository, but there's also need and an interest in social media. 83% of UK physicians say that they benefit from having this collaborative network to tackle certain cases, because it's sometimes very hard to do it by yourself. And there's examples like Doximity, which allows you to reach out to your physicians, or Figure One, which looks a lot like Instagram, but specifically for a physician. And the reason why they put it on the market is because they say that 20% of the cases really lack clarity and requires to be thrown out there to other physicians and have some answers. There is Sermo from the States, who is now launching into many other countries, have about 150 countries out there, who is growing massively. There is a need to be able to talk to your peers to have that impact. The information becomes widely available for physicians as well. And of course, AI, there's more and more physicians that use AI in their daily practice, and we see tons and tons of use cases coming out. We talked about ChatGPT and how great it is for patients. Well, MedPalm by Google is probably even better for physicians. There were tests done, and on most parameters, MedPalm, reacts at least as good, again, as physicians themselves. Still, if we look at healthcare, AI very often is still used as a GPS, or at least the way that we used to treat a GPS back in the days. I mean, you probably remember 20, 25 years ago, the first time you drove with a GPS and it tells you to go right. 25 years ago, you probably say, nah, that's not true. I'll probably go left because I know left is shorter, right? So these days, we don't even know where we're driving anymore. So we're still in that phase, I think, with AI, and a bit like we were with the GPS 20, 25 years ago, where even if it says to go right, we might still go left because we don't trust it fully. But we're going into that direction where we don't even know where we're driving, even in healthcare. This is how I love to see it. However, this one mega force that was driving healthcare since millennia, which is the unequal distribution of information, is slowly moving away. We have now more and more equal distribution, regardless of your geography, your institution, your economic possibilities, opportunities, your technological baggage, or the language that you speak. Information is now equally distributed, which was not the case 40 years ago, and definitely not 1,000 years ago. And the same goes for patients, right? So one of these forces that has been shaping healthcare for so many times is slowly moving away. And that is a radical, radical change in the way that we will operate in the next coming years. But there's a second force, and it's not just about the distribution of information, it's also about the distribution of solutions. It is also unequally distributed. However, patients more and more know what to do, find these solutions for them. And so what we have is people that know what to do with the tools at their disposal. I don't know if there's any runners in the room, but you probably know people that run. And running has become, to me, a personal science. You have, social engagement, motivational music. You know what type of clothing to wear, whether it's warm or cool. You know what pressure you need to put on your legs, and so forth. You have done lots of exams to see what type of shoes you need to wear. There's the nutrition that you know exactly at what minute you need to take in. There's a ton of information which makes running today a complete personal science. It is something that people, based on their information, based on the tools that they have available, know exactly what to do. I can tell you this, if a marathon runner, if you compare that to the other 10,000 people that are running a marathon, none of them are doing the same thing. It is a personal science based on the training and the information and the tools that they have available. And if you look at the popularity of these kind of guys, Dave Asprey, 1 million followers on Instagram, he's a biohacker, the author of 4 bestsellers, or definitely Brian Johnson you might know as well, which is a transhumanist. Those guys are so popular that this is the way that we will go into. People out there who follow them on Instagram, they find new solutions, or at least they are motivated to become personal lab rats themselves. They are looking for solutions to impact their own health. And more those solutions are available. You probably heard of the We Are Not Waiting solution. It was 2016. Diabetic patients type 1, they wanted to have a continuous monitoring of their glycemic values and have an immediate insulin pumping as soon as it is necessary. It wasn't existent. It wasn't on the market. And so what they did is they built it themselves. This is the DIY artificial pancreas that was put on the market by a couple. They put it on Twitter and immediately thousands of people used it. They built a GitHub where you can actually see the software that they developed. Everyone developed their own software that matches their reality. More and more people start looking at this solution as a first choice. It took 3-4 more years before Medtronic put this on the market. Patients were the first one because they had the tools available and the knowledge. This is 2016. Imagine what we can do with AI, right? And it doesn't stop here. I mean, you can go online and you can buy your own DIY CRISPR kits for $140, $130 even. If you don't know how to deal with it, just follow a training, $350. Or you can go to Community Biolab where you can actually work there in good circumstances. We are living in a situation where people more and more know what to do and how to do it. And I haven't even talked about the potential that AI can bring, because AI will become the personal health concierge that they are looking for, right? They have all these data from all these different basic tools that we all have today. Well, it will be a continuous loop saying how things are going, how things should be changing. This is what this type of AI could do. But there will be other types of AI that already exists out there as well. Panasonic has this types of solution which scans your face, looks at your sleep data, and makes you a smoothie specifically for that day. There is Shiseido, which is a beauty brand, which can make you the perfect cream for that day based on how humid it is out there, how well you slept, how stressful you are, whether there's a lot of sun or not. It will give you the exact cream for that day, for your situation. It's a solution that is n equals 1. This is what we see more and more. And this is made by another AI. The third AI might be your personal relative who will motivate you. A fourth AI might guide you through the healthcare system. What we see is bit by bit, every patient will have a swarm of AI agents. And it sounds pretty amazing and whoa, this will take a long time, but it's not that complicated to have a couple of AIs who guide you bit by bit on a lot of difficult stuff that otherwise you did not even know about. this is what we will see. And this is how basically in healthcare, AI will flip everything upside down. I talked about how before the 80s, basically, we had two magnetic forces driving the entire healthcare ecosystem. One was the unequal distribution of information, and the other one was the unequal distribution of solutions. Well, thanks to, the internet, social media, and definitely AI, what we see is that we have two new forces out there. Forces that will make information, knowledge, and solutions equally available. This completely shifts the paradigm that we've been dealing with or having in healthcare for millennia. This is what changes really a lot. And so again, in healthcare, it's super important to have the same speed of uptake with AI as is happening outside of healthcare. And so we need these swarm of agents for physicians as well. And I worked with quite some physicians in the past in healthcare institutions. And these are a couple of the potential, AI agents that you can have out there. And it's not, if you look at the things that they are doing, basically what you see is that there's a lot of information for these things just in the system already. They are not impossible. It won't take 10 years to build those. It won't even take 5 years to build any of those. These are very easy to build based on the information that is already in the system today. And I think it will radically help and change healthcare. And one of the biggest impacts that we will have is that those swarm of AIs from the patient and these swarm of AIs from the physician, they will communicate with each other a lot. Like when I mean a lot, I mean a lot. Certainly a lot more than patients and physicians are doing today. I personally believe that the number of interactions that we might have with physicians will probably go down, but the intensity that we have within those interactions will probably go up. So there's more information shared between our swarm of AI agents. And the moment we get in touch with a physician, that's where the real human interaction, the personal perseverance, maybe whatever it will be there. People often say that it is empathy that will save humans. I personally don't believe that, in a sense that I think that AI has probably more power to mimic empathy better than humans, and they never get tired. However, that's not what we are good at. I think what we prefer or appreciate in human relations is not perfectness. It's the fact that it's not perfect. It's the fact that it feels real. You can compare it with social media, right? On social media, you have a lot of connections, but you don't really feel connected. It will be the same with AI. There will be empathy in AI, and this you will appreciate it, and you will certainly have a great deal of comfort and help from it, but it's not the same thing. Similar to what we have with the connections that we do not, or the connection that we do not have with our connections in social media. So this is how I look at things. AI will flip healthcare upside down. It will remove radically the two major forces that have been designing and driving healthcare for millennia. And now if you ask me, how should we go about it? Well, first of all, technology is never the problem. There's technologies out there to do it. I mean, that is not, and it goes super fast, so we should not worry about technology. The question is, how do you integrate it in your business? This is part of what I do. I help to have proprietary models that really help companies to understand how technology is changing, where this is going, and how we can actually have an impact on your business, your situation, your healthcare institution, and so forth. And the second thing is, even if you have technology, even if there's great innovations, it's very, very hard to do it by yourself. And that's why I really try to build with my clients ecosystems, what I call coalitions. So I look at who do you need to make a change in your reality. And then I build these coalitions, and we work for 9 months to implement these types of solutions radically. This is basically what I wanted to talk about. My name is Christophe Jauquet. Don't forget how healthcare will be flipped upside down, because the two magnetic forces that have been driving healthcare for millennia, forget about it. It's over. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Yes. We'd like to ask you some questions. Oh, great.
Zena?
Can we get a microphone to this lady, please?
Thanks, Christophe. I think this has been so refreshing because almost everyone around here is still obsessed with like hospitals adopting AI, and I think it's like talking about a horse and carriage and driverless cars are whizzing by. Any jurisdictions you've seen where either at a whole jurisdiction level they're like already here, or maybe for a certain patient population or some use case that this has already happened or is close to a tipping point? Or where is it going to happen first?
Good question. I wouldn't even know, actually. I think the reason why I'm so fond about bringing this story is because people haven't, as you said, it's the how can we have faster horses with, you know, whatever technology, instead of really rethinking the horse and saying we need a car. So I don't see a lot of these things happening. There's more and more understanding. I mean, we see a lot of talks and panels about AI agents, but they don't really see the big picture in my view, in a sense that we still, if I talk to people here, and in any jurisdiction, in my opinion, we still hear it from a top-down kind of level. Maybe at physician level, there's more of a realization that the patient is starting to get at their level, and it's not so paternalistic anymore. But from an institution point of view, it is still very paternalistic. We still believe we have the knowledge and the power and the rightful decision-making tools to help patients. But I think it's a bit like 20 years ago when I was on stage, I said there is more healthcare information outside of the system than inside of the system. And the moment we will realize that, it will flip. And what we see is that the healthcare system will be open to integrate the data from outside of the system. I think it took 20 years to get there. I think it would probably take another 10 years to have that same evolution. People don't realize how important and how powerful patients will be. And so the system still looks at it from a system. And we need to get out of our ivory tower to do that. And that's why it's a bit of a provocative statement, and it's probably lightly exaggerated, definitely in the first couple of years. But I firmly believe that the powers, the dynamics of healthcare are dramatically changing. And I haven't seen it, uptaken in any jurisdiction whatsoever. I think the only industry that might understand it a little bit, and from whom we can learn quite a lot, is the wellness industry, because they really are open. And if you look at the revenues in the wellness industry, it's $6.3 trillion. It is almost as big as the entire healthcare expenditures worldwide, which is reimbursed by governments. Wellness is paid out of pocket. So this, to me, is the best example to learn from, where they have this kind of equilibrium more.
Thank you so much for that.
Hello. You talked about empathy, right? I want to know your perspective for mental health, because we always talk about physicians and exercise, nutrition, and fitness, but what I see it's missing all the time is the mental part. And as everybody's using it like a therapist, right? What do you think about the empathy side?
Well, I think if you look at, there was a recent Harvard Business Review that explains the most popular use cases with AI, and it was companionship and mental health. So that is the most use case today, right? And the reason why it is because there is so much empathy already. I mean, when Apple brought out Siri 15 years ago, they had to hire 20 psychiatrists because there were so many personal questions asked to Siri. And that was 15 years ago. So to me, the easiest use case and the most common use case will be mental health. And one of the reasons is because there's a lot of shame related to your mental health issues. So that's why people go there pretty easily. So to me, that is the most obvious today already use case out there. Does that answer your question? Okay.
Hi, I'm Dr. Raman. My question is, like you said, 25 years ago, people started using the GPS. They didn't believe it. Like today, you don't know, like you can't travel without Google Maps. So that's what I do. So I founded a company which like it really focuses on educating the healthcare professionals on radical technology which can impact the industry. So I just want to have one or two points from you. How can we do it faster than patient learning it faster. Like educating the healthcare professionals faster than patients learning about it faster.
Yeah, I think I'll answer with the problem. I think there's two issues with uptake of technology in healthcare today. One is the fact that the time required to install it is too high. We don't have the time to actually get the gains back. So a lot of physicians, there's actually 3 things. So a lot of physicians don't invest the time because they don't have that time. And so why should they do it, and how could they actually do it? So that is, time is one big issue. On top of that, if you compare it to other industries, when innovation happens, it's always because there's a burning platform, meaning something is happening, and if I don't innovate, my business is gone. Physicians don't have that today. It might in the future, and then maybe things will accelerate, or definitely things will accelerate, but there's no burning platform. We have this, the one who pays, the one who provides the care, and the one who receives the care. And the burning platform is so spread out that if you solve the burning platform, it's not for the person that is, living the burning platform. So a physician doesn't really, why should he innovate? Very often there is no incentive really. It doesn't burn for him, because even with or without, patients will come and he gets his paycheck, let's put it that way. And so why wouldn't he do it? So those are two very big concerns to me. The fact that you basically need to put something on the market which requires no time for uptake, but then it means the processes, how will you do that? The learning curve, the change management. And that is one of the things that often prohibits physicians to do it, on top of the fact that the return is too small.
Just keeping it short here. Thanks, Christophe. Great talk. You talked about the 2 dimensions of solutions and information.
Yes.
But then there's another dimension of accountability. And especially you talked about the CRISPR self kits, right? And you end up creating superbugs, for example. So what is your idea of the framework for bringing in the accountability or responsibility in that sense when you're talking about citizen science?
Yeah, to be honest, that's, first of all, my basic answer to that is I don't care. Simply because those things are being taken care of. I mean, if you look at all the stages that I've go around the world, there's not one stage where we not talk about privacy, accountability, regulation, and so forth. So I trust that this will happen without issue. On top of that, I also believe that we need to be able to educate through all these solutions patients in that way, or people in that way, that they become accountable themselves first. And so it's also for them to understand what is really the impact. And what you see with all these biohacking tools and transhumanism, I mean, the accountability is with whom there? They all push it back to the people that are trying it because it's experimental. And so the people that are doing it, they do it full conscience in a certain way. And I think that is one way of going ahead. I don't say it's valuable for 100% of the population, but I think it's one way of not, de-accelerating the innovation. And beyond that, I really think it will be solved. As far as we go fast, the industry will follow. There's a lot of people talking about it. I'm not the one. I want to make sure that people have the healthhusiasm to move forward. That is kind of like mine. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Do we have any more questions for Christophe before he is released from the stage? Anyone else would like to ask Christophe a question? Well, thank you so
I'll
much
be around.
for
Thank
that.
you.
Thank you. That was honestly the best engagement we've had. So thank you so much. Really, really interesting.